while I'm traveling, obviously it's a little bit difficult with the Wi-Fi, especially because I stay in not amazing five-star resorts, but mostly very remote places in house shares with a lot of people and not very good internet. So the last one didn't record because it wasn't very good quality. So in this session, I'll basically be repeating what I said in the last session that we had together, but maybe it will be good for you, a little reminder, um, a little memory jog, because it's been a couple of days, and see if we can continue strengthening those qualities or dropping some of those things that don't serve us. So if you're watching the recording a bit later, you're very welcome. And I hope you're able to go from the beginning and learn step by step. Maybe start at the first video would be good. And for the rest of you here, we've had a little catch up today, but you're also very welcome. So while I'm talking, I hope you can just be aware of the breath coming in and out of the body. You can start by taking a couple of deep breaths. I usually do that, whatever I'm doing, going about my day. If I'm reminding myself to be mindful, sometimes I just take a deep breath and then just continue to try and be aware of what I'm doing, be more mindful. So just being aware of the breath coming in and out of the body or the nose or both, wherever you like, just while I'm talking for a little while. So as I was saying, I was away and the internet wasn't good. We did have a conversation about these subjects, but they didn't record properly. So I'll do a little repetition. So I apologize for that, but I hope it will be helpful. So when we learn about meditation, there's a lot of talk about not being in the past, not thinking about the past, and not worrying about the future. But at some point, hopefully, most of you, if not all of you, will reach a stage where you'll be in the present moment. You'll be aware of your breath. You won't be thinking about the past. You won't be worried about the future. But you may have other thoughts coming in the way. You may have questions. You may have analysis. You may have calculation. You may have some kind of deep philosophical rumination also, which is very natural because you're on the spiritual path and you're doing something very spiritual. So what should you do when those kinds of questions crop up? So the answer is do nothing. When you're trying to meditate, even questions like this are a distraction. So as I was saying before, thoughts have no intrinsic value. It's only the value that we assign to them. So if you don't give them any importance, the mind will then come back to working towards a quiet state, quietude. So thoughts like this are very helpful when they're needed. But when we're trying to meditate and silence the mind, they're just chatter of the mind. They're just a distraction. And I know how hard it is to stop that chatter of the mind. And I remember in the beginning, I had to take a vow to stop asking questions. So my guru, Om Swami, he taught us about the feeling that you get, especially when I used to ask a lot of questions during discourses when it was question time. So he would say that, especially on the spiritual path or anything really, if you have a deep burning question and you meet somebody like a guru who can answer questions that perhaps nobody else can, when the question is answered, your synapses will fire, a bit like a drug, and it gives you a little high. And then you feel like, oh, I need to know more and more and more. And it's great to have this thirst for knowledge, but just not when we're trying to meditate or when we're trying to practice. He says at some point, we need to put all the books away, stop thinking, and just practice. And so I took a vow in front of him to say, I will not ask any more questions. So I didn't ask any more questions in discourse. And I applied it to my meditation. So anytime a question even began to crop up in my meditation, I dropped it. I would not allow myself to follow the path of that question. No questioning, no analysis, no calculation, no rumination, just to drop the thought. And in the beginning, it requires a little work and effort. And especially for those who are well-read or naturally a little bit more intelligent or gifted academically, that kind of thing in meditation, unfortunately, is useless. That's probably the only time being intelligent or well-read or worldly or an overthinker thinking a lot naturally doesn't help us at all. So that's when we have to remember, drop the thought, drop the thought. So let's move from just natural mindful breathing now into a little bit more of a meditative state. So I'd like you to be aware of the breath moving in and out of the body. This is the time to close your eyes and keep your back as straight as possible if you can. And just remember, when you close your eyes, we're not trying to see through our eyes anymore. We're not looking at the back of our eyelids. We're not looking for any patterns or movement or shapes or anything. Remind yourself that these are just blood vessels behind the eyelids. The eyes are defunct at this point. They're not needed. We're just feeling, nothing to see, just feeling. And if you remember, we were doing the cycle of 5 breaths. So you take a deep breath. And then allow 5 natural breaths to pass and just be very, very aware of them. And take a deep breath again. 5 natural breaths pass. Take a deep breath again and just continue that cycle with absolute awareness. You may even have other thoughts in the present moment, like, am I doing it correctly? Oh, this is useless. What am I doing? Why am I wasting my time here? All kinds of things. Some self-doubt. You just have to drop the thought and come back to the breath. And remember, if you're practicing this at home, after the session, remember the steps that we go through if you find it difficult for the mind to settle or concentrate. Start with finding the breath in the body, then find the breath in the nose. Then see if you can be aware that the breath going in is cooler than the breath coming out of the nose. And see if you can be aware of which nostril is more active at this moment. And then focus on the 5 breaths at a time. With each deep exhalation, let your shoulders drop a little. Let the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet relax. If the mind wanders off and starts thinking, if you're not sure which number breath you are on, just take a deep breath and come back to focusing on 5 natural breaths at a time. Whatever you find yourself thinking about, just remind yourself in this moment it's not important, it doesn't matter. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. And now my favorite part, homework. So we'll continue with a few minutes at a time of sitting and focusing on these 5 breaths. And as I was saying, if you find it difficult to focus immediately, try to go through the steps. Begin with feeling the breath in the body, then feel it in the nose. Then be aware of the temperature change, that the breath coming out is slightly warmer than the breath going in the nose. And then try and be aware of which nostril is more active at the moment, whether it's the left or the right. They should help you settle the mind pretty quickly. And you can try and focus on those 5 breaths at a time for a few minutes. If you're able to focus for 1 minute on every single breath, there may be thoughts coming in, that's fine. But as long as you don't lose where you are counting the breaths, then please increase by a minute and increase by more and more, depending on how much time you have. And keep going with the being aware of the footing. If you're able to stand, if you're able to walk, then please be aware of when you're standing up, which foot touches the ground first, and how many times you're standing up and sitting down every day. And like this morning, we had a little chat and getting to know each other. Maybe once in a while, we'll do that, and we can also check in on who remembered and how many times and how you're all doing. I think it'll be a great way to keep you all motivated also. So, yeah, have a lovely day. And the sun is shining. It's a little bit cold today, it's snowing like this, but the sun is shining. So I wish you all a lovely, lovely, beautiful, peaceful day ahead. Lots of love to you all. And I will see you here tomorrow morning at the same time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.